Now, it's about time to get to the main event of the day, the keynote presentation. Today, we are pleased to have Dr. Pailin Chuchottaworn, one of our distinguished alumni from Chula Engineering. Dr. Pailin has an extensive background in power and energy sector. He is also deeply involved in establishing educational institute focusing on science and technology. The keynote topic today is even more appropriate during this time of pandemic. Please welcome Dr. Pailin Chuchottaworn with the topic Transforming the Educational Context of Educational Institutions in Thailand in the New Normal Era. Dr. Pailin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope everybody can hear. And Mr. Chairman, it's my honor to be invited to share with our distinguished guests today about the future of education. Actually, before we start, I have to inform everybody that personally, I'm not a trained educator. I'm actually a trained engineer and management. But because of my passion with education, I spent the latter half of my life doing some experiment, especially the education in the area of science and engineering. And I hope that today I can share with all our distinguished guests of some of the findings that I have. I would like to concentrate my discussion today in the area of tertiary education. And ladies and gentlemen, for me, education is a complex process and is concerning with the refinement and enrichment of people for the harmony and advancement of humanities. From the past, even though humanity did exist in this world for more than 200,000 years. But all along, in terms of technologies, human race didn't actually make big progress in terms of the technical advancement until 300 years ago, or around the year of 1760. And that was actually the period at the end of the Middle Age. And it's a start of a new Renaissance and also Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution begins with the invention of the steam engine. And that is the first time that the humanities is actually step out of the poverty and step out of the period that we call the agrarian period. And the scientists call the world, after the Industrial Revolution, the world 1.0. And then after that, soon after that, with the invention of electricity, the world changed again. And we call the world 2.0. The world 2.0 was actually change humans' life. We succeed in turning the primary energy into a secondary energy called electricity, and the energy being distributed to every home in every countries. And the world did change again recently in the year 1975. Actually, I was very young at the time. I was just first enrolled into university. At Chulalongkorn University, my class of engineering was the first class of engineering in Chulalongkorn University that we were allowed to use electronics calculator instead of the old slide rule. So my life changed, and that's the time that my life I changed from analog to digital. And since then, we were in the era of the world 3.0. Today, we probably couldn't imagine that how the world will look like without computer, without smartphone, and without all the social network that we are enjoying. So we are now totally immersed in the world 3.0, as we call it. But scientists did define that the world from now on, the world tomorrow will very much different from the world we are seeing today. We do not know exactly what the world tomorrow will be definitely look like, but we know for sure that the world tomorrow will totally different from the world today. And we believe that the world tomorrow will drive by artificial intelligence, by robotics, by digitization, so on and so forth. So we are living in the world 3.0 and we are moving toward the world 4.0. The question is that what exactly the world of the future of the world forward will look like. Nobody knows for sure, but ladies and gentlemen, if you search the word world 4.0 in your Google on your smartphone, you find a lot of proposition coming out. There was a definition of a world 4.0 proposed by World Economic Forum, proposed by a consulting company like McKinsey, and so on and so forth. But on this slide, I show one of the good example that how the scientists of the OECD country summarize the typical World 4.0 in a report submitted in the year 2016. In this slide, you'll find that the OECD scientists did propose that there would be roughly 40 key technologies for the future, or these 40 key technologies will be the technology will drive the future. And they kindly put all these 40 technologies into one big circle and separate into 4 quadrants. And more interesting thing was that if you look inside this circle, each item of the 40 key technology of future are mostly interdisciplinary topics. So actually, it's very difficult to pick one of these 40 key technology and put in one of the department in your faculty in the current university system, because most of the items are multidisciplinary. Let me make an example. If I pick up the nanomaterial topics, nanomaterial topics can be topics for the Department of Biology or Electronics or Material Science. So it's mostly all the entry in this circle mostly are multidisciplinary topics. So this report is quite interesting report that I would recommend all educators to go to this report. If we believe that this proposition by OECD is true, then we can start to understand the education of the future. When we talk about the education of the futures, we must be aware also that today's people can live and work beyond the retirement years of 60. I'm 65 today, but I still work and I still performing. The point at the moment was that when the longevity of the people extending, we probably the way that we cultivate people and the way that people should work and earn their living should change also. One of the good example that I would like to share with you was that I learned that one of the leading telecommunication company like Huawei, their retirement age was really low as 45. So why the retirement age of this company was so low? This company believed that at the age of 45, it is the age that the employee can have the second employment, so that he can start his career business. That is the sweet spot for people to start his second career. And probably this guy can work until 70 or 80, earn their living, and also fit with the new profile of a lifestyle that people will probably can living until the 80 and 90, healthy and can perform. On the other hand, when we live longer, but we start working younger, This is the one of the advertisement in US. Big tech company in US, they start enroll people even before they graduate from college. Why that? Why all these companies, tech leading companies, why do they have to wait until the good guys graduate from college? If you are good enough, you can always join this company younger. And we have to also to understand that with the very low birth rate today, it's very difficult to anticipate that there will be good enough people for company to select after the graduation of the college. So I believe that the good tech company, they will try to preempt by trying to hire good, better branding people when they are younger, and then let's get it started. So it means that this process of recruiting people before they graduate from college is the process that they're trying to disrupt tertiary education, the system that we are operating at the moment. So to summarize what I'm trying to say is that when the world was without technology, when people is still living in the era of agrarian, doing the agriculture for the living, we probably will die at the age of 50. So at that time, education was very short. We work and then we die at the age of 50. But then when we come to the era of industrialization, because of the professionalism that arises from the industrial revolution, education will being extended, but it's being a one-shot education at the beginning. And people will work until 60 and stop working, enter into retirement period, waiting to die. And this is we call the front-loading educational system. And this is a system where our tertiary education is operating. But when we look at the futures, we probably, I believe that the young generation, the generation alpha, the boys and girls that being born this day, probably they can live until 90 or 100 years old, happily and healthily. With these people, they don't need to stop working at the retirement of 60. So what they will do is that they will start to have the first education, and probably the education will be shorter than the way that we do it today. Yeah, this is how. This is why Google and Netflix, they hire people without any college degrees, and that is a period of the first employment. And then at the half of the lifetime, maybe probably 40, 45 years old, people will start to have the second employment. And that is the way that how Huawei was retiring people at 45. So it means that degree is less of important today, but a more lifetime education is the way that the education should be look like in the future. And it just fit with the lifestyle and the way that the world will moving on. So this is the double employment that now being starting. And I was very surprised to learn that this system was very well accepted in a country like China. I believe that in US and many other European countries will start adapting to this double employment system to cope for the aging society. And interestingly, this is one of the research outcomes. This research outcome showing that when we talk about startup, from statistics, startup for the startup entrepreneur with the startup at the age of 35 or 40, they have more chance of success than startup at the younger age. So it means that the way that the younger generation that start up the business very young today was not actually very recommended or is correct. People with the age of 35 or 40, if they are doing the second employment, start up their business at that time, they have the money, they have the experience, and they have the connection they have more chance of success when they start up younger. So all what I'm saying was that all of this evidence is showing that the way that the education system and the way of the employment system in the near future will completely change from the way it looks like today. I'll come back at the education. So what it should be, it should be the content of the education of 4.0. Actually, there was one of the famous theory proposed by Professor Humboldt of Germany about 200 years ago. You actually can find this theory in the OECD paper that I showed before. Right? Professor Humboldt did mention about the education for the future, saying that education for the future must be interdisciplinary and it must be entrepreneurial type with the innovation and outreach as the goal. So when Professor Humboldt proposed this, he also set up a university in West Germany called University of Berlin. And today I understand the name of the university was changed from University of Berlin to Humboldt University of Berlin. This is the university that Einstein graduated, and the university that many other inventors graduate. Actually, Professor Humboldt did propose that the subject of philosophy is subject that all university students must learn and master, because this is the subject that binding all the subject matter of the universe of knowledge together. And the way that Professor Humboldt was proposed now being practiced in many universities around the world. I put a name at the bottom of the Education 4.0 that I will show you example of some of the universities that did the experiment with this multidisciplinary type of education. Here are some of the names that I pick up. KAIST is a famous university in Korea, and within a short period of time, within 20 years, KAIST have been pushing itself to the top of the world in terms of research output. And with this multidisciplinary concept leading the university, there are some other universities in few other countries follow the suit. For example, the Okinawa Institute of Science Technology in Japan, in the Okinawa Island. This is one of the newest national university of Japan that is adopting the concept of interdisciplinary and operate as a graduate school only. And one of the newest multidisciplinary university that was created by Singapore government was the SUTD. Actually, Singapore was a small island, but this is the third national university created by Singapore government. And I'll show you the performance research for output of these three universities later on. But these are not all the experiments in the field of education of 4.0 or multidisciplinary. Here in Thailand, we also did this experiment. A company called PTT, which is a national oil company in Thailand. I used to be the CEO of this company. We did the experiment with the tertiary education, with the education 4.0 as well. In the year 2014, PTT donated one lump sum of money for Thailand to create a new research university in Thailand along the line of the education 4.0. In the year 2015, the construction of the new university was completed, and the university started operation. So today, the 2021, the university have operating for 5 years. The name of the university was VISTEC, stand for Vidyasi Limited Institute of Science and Technology. This university completely employ the concept of multidisciplinary. First of all, it's a university residential research location. All our students live live inside the campus. The campus was about 200 kilometers away from Bangkok. And secondly, this is a full postdoc system. We also have one key metrics to maintain the quality of the education research. And the index was that the ratio for faculty to student to graduate student must be 1:6. So it cannot be over 1:6. One professor with 6 graduate students. This university employ a tenure track system. So all professors have a 4-year contract with the universities. The curriculum design I will show later on is closely follow the concept of multidisciplinary and educational 4.0. And by the way, this university is a very small university. Today we have about 30 professors and probably not more than 250 graduate students with us. But how can a university with 30 professors and 250 more graduate students can perform or can produce, we will see later on. And that we are committed to doing the research only in the frontier research. We are not entertaining the generic research at these universities. So earlier I show you one of the example that OECD proposed that how the content of the world 4.0 will look like. If you can recall, it's a circle and separate into 4 quadrants. So when we create a new university, the University 4.0, so we also saying that then we just create the faculty in the new university, just follow the concept of the proposition of OECD. So that means that we will have only 4 faculty of 4 schools. The first school called School of Energy Science Engineering. The second school is called School of Molecular Science Engineering, responsible for the second quadrant. The third school is School of Biomolecular Science Engineering. And the last one is the School of Information Science Technology. Now that we have 4 schools, it's cover all the area of the future research topic for the World 4.0 already. It means that this university doesn't need any more school or faculty. And one thing that you probably can really identify was that we are not separating science from engineering anymore. There's no point we separate science from engineering. Science and engineering must go hands in hand in the future. This is the summary of the curriculum of each school. You probably were surprised that there were the 4 school, the curriculum of the 4 school were not written in the same fashion. What we are saying was that we don't care how the curriculum being decided, but insofar as the content are the topic in the of each curriculum of each school is a topic that is being contested over the world in the frontier research areas. So from the year 2015 that we start operating this university VISTEC, and until today, the research outcome, if we compare by using the Nature Index, is very clear from this slide that the research outcome of our university is already coming to the top level of Thailand. And keeping in mind that this university was just 5 years old, and that we have only less than 30 professors and less than 250 graduate students. and this is the performance tabulated by Nature Index. And in the past 5 years, if we trying to compare the research outcome, it is clearly that the VSTEC was leading the way and pushing itself and then trying to excel in all area of frontier research. And interestingly, Nature's recently also trying to identify the rising ASEAN Pacific institution that is excel in terms of research and impact. And if we're excluding the Chinese university, the reason that we have to exclude the Chinese university because there were number of Chinese university in this list was really long. So if we exclude it, except the Chinese university, you find that VSTEC within 5 years we are in number 12 of the other Asian university that perform very well in terms of research output. And again, Nature starts doing the metrics. They are trying to identify that with young institution, less than 30 years old, but having excellent academic performance in terms of research output, how it will look like. They propose a top 30 academic institution in one of their report recently. And interestingly, that VSTEC was ranked in number 12. But the point that I would like to make here is not that where we were ranked, but in this top 30 academic institution that Nature Index identified, I was so surprised that I found that half of the university in that list were the university that adopt the education 4.0 or is a multidisciplinary type of university. So it means that conventional university with the concept of faculty, concept of a department is not anymore. It's harder to perform, to produce the output that the new type of university can produce. So this is a proof, or this is a manifest that probably the concept of the world of 4.0 education may be the right way, the right path that tertiary education of the future may look like. So this concluding my presentation, I would like to give the last comments was that education is a very complex process that I mentioned at the beginning. And I believe that the future is uncharted area and nobody knows. So it's our duty to carry out the experiment and to find out the most appropriate way that our tertiary education must be look like. And here in Thailand, we are in the process of doing that experiment, and I'm glad that I'll be able to share with all of you one of the way that we are trying to create education 4.0 in Thailand. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Pailin, for a fruitful talk. Now we open the floor for questions. Any questions? Yes, I got a question from one of the attendees. Dr. Pailin, what are the most challenges for the education instructions had to face in the new normal era in Thailand? What are the most challenges for the educators to face in this situation in Thailand?
The challenge is that we not really know what the business side, the requirement for business side, what they require from us. So for us, our duty is to cultivate the most suitable student or researcher to fulfill the requirement of the business circle. But the matching of the two is so difficult. And that the second point was that, as I mentioned during my presentation, the requirement from the business side is keep on changing. Keep on changing along the evolution of the business side. So we are now we are playing a catching up game. The education is actually we are behind the industry, but that theoretically we are supposed to be ahead of the industry to lead the industry, but actually we are behind and we are trying to catching up, and that is the most difficult thing is that can we do that in time or not?
Yes, thank you very much. As you talk, oh yes, there is another question. Will the way our graduates are employed in the future look like the past, or how do you see changes? More project-based employment? Will there be more project-based employment? The employment of the graduates in the future, what do you think it will look like?
I think we mustn't encourage our students to graduate and work as employee in big organization. The correct way for the future was to train them to be an entrepreneur. So actually, the way the business, I don't believe that in the future there will be big tech company, big business anymore. The business will split now. I believe that the technology will be more dispersed among laymen. So actually, the duty of tertiary education and most important duty for tertiary education is to cultivate young entrepreneurs, to let them perform, let them using their intellectual property to earn their living, rather than to send them into a big corporate and then just doing their living by earning salary. That I think this is a contrary.
Yes, yes. Okay, and thank you, Dr. Pailin, for yes, is there any more questions from the audience? Yes, so I would like to thank you, Dr. Pailin, for the talk again. And before we proceed to the parallel sessions, we would like to express our feelings that we are very excited to host this event. The conference was supposed to happen 2 years ago in Thailand, and our team has been working very hard to organize this. We would like to show our beautiful country. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 situation, as the host, I would like to invite you all to join Thailand Cultural Tour online with this video instead. Please enjoy the video.
These feelings are waiting for you to come back. From the north to the south, from northeast to west, from world-famous beaches to untouched islands, from time to time, from place to place. From the ocean up to the sky, from color to color, from street to rooftop, from hot to cold, from city to nature, from traditional to festival, from dusk till dawn, around the clock, around the country. Amazing feelings are waiting for you to explore again. once the world is ready. Until we meet again. Amazing Thailand.
Hope you enjoy Thailand virtual tour. If you would like to watch more videos, please visit the conference website at worldwideweb.cdio2021.jula.ac.th. Now we are moving to parallel sessions. All session details are posted on Hufa application. You can also join virtual campus online through the conference website. If you are interested in talking to each other, please use a feature in Hufa called Meetup and Virtual Meet. You can create a virtual meeting room to chat with each other. Last but not least, you can leave a message or a comment through Hufa. Now let's move to parallel sessions 3 and 4. Thank you.